Hello, friends, and welcome to the Little Woman podcast. Jimena and I continue our chat on chapter Consequences, which is chapter 30 in Little Woman. Absolutely lovely chapter. Often with some fans, you hear people being like, Laurie and Joe should have been together because they were the perfect from friends to lovers trope. That, of course, is not really the case. Laurie was very possessive. And at least to me as a reader, when we get into the part when he is in Vienna composing an opera, I always got this feeling that he was never really in love with Joe. He was in love with the idea of being in love, being a prince in love. But when it comes to Laurie and Amy also went from friends to lovers. And people don't talk about that enough. But then these chapters, like the Consequences, where we see Amy and Laurie being friends, these don't get adapted. It is the same with one of my other favorite Amy chapters, which is Amy's Will. It has beautiful Amy and Laurie friendship. It is hardly ever adapted. It is on the 2017 series. I did like that sequence in the series. I do like Amy and Laurie friendship. And we have talked about this with some other guests in the podcast. Amy does not pet Laurie in a similar way that Beth does, or Joe does, or even Meg. Maybe it is the 4-year age gap between them, but Amy does not have maternal relationship with Laurie that the other sisters have. And here are a few more quotes from the annotated Little Woman by Daniel Sheely. Some of you might already know this. Amy's journey to Europe was inspired both by Louisa May Alcott's journey to Europe and also May Alcott's travels to Europe. May eventually moved to France and settled there. Here's a quote. Louisa May Alcott accompanied the invalid Anna Veld and her half-brother George, the children of William Fletcher Veld, a Boston shipping merchant, to Europe. The journey lasted from July 19, 1866, and Louisa visited England, Germany, Belgium, France, and Switzerland. Echoing this passage to the chapter Consequences is an entry from Louisa's journal. In November 1860, a family friend sent May $30 to study art in Boston with David Claypool Johnston. Louisa May Alcott claimed that May, quote, is one of the fortunate ones and gets what she wants easily. I have to grub for my help or go without it. Good for me, doubtless, or it wouldn't be so. So cheer up, Louisa, and grinned away, end quote. What do you guys think? Do you think Louisa envied her sister? I have a cousin who is 2 years older than me, and some of you might know this. I work as an illustrator. I don't know if my cousin draws these days. I don't think she does. She's a very good photographer. But when I was younger, my cousin used to draw and paint a lot. I also drew and painted a lot. And I remember I was 12 and my grandmother said that Niina is almost as good artist as Tarja is. Tarja is my cousin. It was so annoying. My mother and many of my relatives were always putting us against one another because we both liked to draw and we were close in age. Also, my cousin was a straight A student, very smart, and I wasn't. And it was really frustrating sometimes and kind of played with my self-esteem a bit. And it's a bit of a paradox. Maybe I did have spikes of envy towards my cousin, but that's because she got so much attention and I was always criticized. Well, that's how it felt. Maybe there was something similar going on with May and Louisa. But I never really felt resentment towards my cousin because I know that it wasn't intentional from her part. It was something that was done by other people. And it was other people trying to pin us against one another. People don't do that to the kids. When it comes to Louisa, I think she had spikes of enviness towards May. But I don't think it never was full resentment. I think Louisa recognized where those spikes of enviness came from. In the book, Joe and Amy have 4-year age gap, and in real life, Louisa and May had 8-year age gap. I think Louisa felt that May got lots of advantages that weren't given to her. That is my conclusion, but let me know what you guys think. And a little ad before we continue. I recently published my first adult coloring book called the Cozy Cottage Coloring Book. All the illustrations are ones I drew during the pandemic, and the whole thing is centered around this warm, cozy world of country living, books and seasoned and animals and cozy hobbies. If Little Woman aesthetics is something that you like, this might be right up your alley, and you can find the link in the description. I really hate promoting myself, but what can you do? As always, if you are a fan of the Little Woman podcast, you can join my free newsletter at littlewomanchannel.substack.com and get notified when new episodes appear. This is Little Woman podcast. Amy and Laurie also started as friends. Enjoy!
It's always a little funny when I hear people saying how preachy Little Woman is. I read quite a lot of books from the 19th century. It's not on the most preachy, and it's less preachy than a lot of other books from the time period.
Yeah.
In general, when it came to Alcott's, I would say their views on Christianity, it was not mainstream. It was quite unique. The transcendentalists, it was rather different than most people practiced at the time.
No, I'm thinking that, this chapter, because I've seen a lot of people make memes about equality, thou shalt love thy neighbor like self, and we are so cynic sometimes. In context, it was different back then. It was different in the 1860s. Like you said, I mean, this is not just any family. The father is a pastor. The mother is a social worker. They are trying to infuse those values into the birds. So of course they're gonna try the birds to be as good as possible. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people say like, yeah, it's preachy, but you should put this into context. It's not just any person in the street saying this. I mean, this is a very special family. As she spoke, Amy returned her contribution with a nod and a smile, and hurried away again, feeling that it was easier to do a friendly thing than it was to stay and be St. Forest. Now I call that lovely offer, don't you? Cried one girl. May's answer was inaudible, but another young lady, whose temper was evidently a little sored by making lemonade, added with an agreeable laugh, very lovely, for she knew she wouldn't sell them at her own table. Now that was hard. When we make little sacrifices, we like to have them appreciated. At least for a minute, Amy was sorry she had done it, feeling that virtue was not always its one reward. But it is, as she presently discovered, for her spirits began to rise and her table to blossom under the skillful hands. The girls were very kind, and that one little act seemed to have cleared the atmosphere amazingly. It was a very long day and a hard one for Amy, and she sat behind her table, often quite alone, for the little girl deserted very soon. Few cared to buy flowers in summer, and her bouquets began to droop long before night. The art table was the most attractive in the room. There was a crowd about it all day long, and the tenders were constantly flying to and fro with important faces and rattling money boxes. Amy often looked wistfully across, longing to be there, where she felt at home and happy, instead of in a corner with nothing to do. It might seem no hardship for some of us, but to a pretty, brittle young girl, it was not only tedious but very tiring, and the thought of Laurie and his friend made a real martyrdom. She did not go home till night, and then she looked so pale and quiet that they knew that day had been a hard one, though she made no complaint and did not even tell what she had done. Her mother gave her an extra cordial cup of tea. Beth helped her dress and made a charming little wreath for her hair, while Joe astonished her family by getting herself up with unusual care and hitting darkly at the table where about to be turned. Don't do anything rude, pray Joe. I won't have any fuss made, so let it pass and behave yourself, begged Amy, as she departed early, hoping to find a reinforcement of flowers to refresh her poor little table. I merely intend to make myself entrancingly agreeable to everyone I know, and to keep them in your corner as long as possible. Teddy and his boys will lend a hand, and we'll have a good time yet," returned Joe, leaning over the gate to watch for Laurie. Presently, the familiar tramp watched her to the dust, and she ran out to meet him. It's one of these moments where it shows how even doing the right thing, you do the right thing, you try to be kind, and then people are still unkind to you. That must sting so much, and I'm glad that Louisa said it so here that she was even sorry even for just a minute that she had done it, because she didn't got the gratefulness that she deserved.
But her artwork is selling really well, but she's not there to witness that. She can see just people buying her things, but she cannot sell them herself.
A hit to her pride. I can be there to witness my success. She can be there and she feels bad for that, but also like it is a charitable event, and it's not even supposed to be about her. It's about getting the money to help the pretty man. So it's kind of like this moment. I don't know, charities, this kind of charity events that rich people do. It's always there's something always a bit fishy or something when they spend so much sometimes money, and sometimes they spend so much either to lift their own egos because they are healthy. They try to make to appear like they're such good people by making all these charitable things. And here Amy, like, yeah, sure, she hurt, but at the same time, like, just sell them. It's not like it's better if it's in the art table. It's better. It's not even for me. It's for the treatment, so it's fine. And in the last chapter, when she talks about the art fair, Joe says they just she's irritated that she didn't got into the fair. But she's like, they just want you to work, Amy. And she's like, it's fine. It's not for me. It's for the treatment. So yeah, I mean, kind of leads got to be things. Wanting to be proud. I wanted to receive the recognition for your work, but also like it's not about you. Yeah, that's being of charity. That's the thing that should matter, or you're helping instead of if you're doing it. It's an interesting issue in this chapter. Amy's pride also gets hurt.
That's an interesting thought. How in the past, I don't know if it's well, I guess now also if wealthy people organize, fundraising for some cause, but then it's about ego as well. How much money I can gather, how people will see me.
Yeah, and if I call the press because I want everyone to know that I donated $1 million, that I could have easily detach myself from, because I have so many more millions.
I could make an anonymous donation.
Yeah. It's also about their ego. The charity fair that Amy is participating in.
I do like that. All the sisters, they come and comfort Amy after the long day of being in the flower booth with the young girls. Even Joe comes and, looks after her.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also this how much the girls have grown, how the relationship between Amy with the rest of her family, how is it that they know she has been working very hard. They must have to keep her doing the illustrations, painting the shells, and doing all of these things to prepare herself. They are angry on her behalf, especially with Joe. It's really interesting how we would be talking about how Joe would ever react. She's helping Amy, but at the same time she's like, the tables are about to return. And so she has a plan, and she's doing for her. She's doing for Amy. So this is also one of those things that I get mad about not seeing these in adaptations, because Joe and Amy are always fighting in these movies and in this series, and rarely do we see them supporting each other, and especially from from Joe to Amy, not usual to see Joe being so happy and so supportive and so on the defensive for Amy.
Future filmmakers take notes.
Yes, please adapt this chapter. Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. And
Is that my boy? As sure as this is my girl. And Laurie tucked her hand under his arm with the air of a man whose every wish was gratified. Oh, Teddy, such doings! And Joe told Amy's wrongs. It's sisterly zeal. A flock of our fellows are going to drive over and by, and I'll be hanged if I don't make them buy every flower she's got. And camp down before her table afterward, said Laurie, espousing her cause with warmth. The flowers are not all that nice, Amy says, and the fresh ones may not arrive in time. I don't wish to be unjust or suspicious, but I shouldn't wonder if they never came at all. When people do one mean thing, they are very likely to do another, observed Joe in a disgusted tone. Did Hayes give you the best of our gardens? I told him to. I didn't know that. He forgot, I suppose, and as your grandpa was poorly, I didn't like to worry him by asking, though I did want some. Now, Joe, how could you think there was any need of asking? They're just as much yours as mine. Don't we always go halves in everything? Began Laurie, in the tone that always made Joe turn tawny. Gracious, I hope not. Half of some of your things wouldn't suit me at all. But we mustn't stand Philadelphia here. I've got to help Amy. So you go and make yourself splendid, and if you'll be so very kind as to let Hayes take a few nice flowers up to the hall, I'll bless you forever. Couldn't you do it now? Asked Laurie so suggestively that Joe shut the gate in his face with inhospitable haste and called through the bars, Go away, Teddy, I'm busy. Thanks to the conspirators, tables were turned that night, or Hayes sent up wilderness of flowers, the lovely basket arranged in his best manner for the centerpiece. Then the March family turned out en masse, and Jo exerted herself to some purpose, for people not only came but stayed, laughing at her nonsense, admiring Amy's taste and apparently enjoying themselves very much. Laurie and his friends gallantly threw themselves into the breach, bought up the bouquets, and camped before the table and made that corner the liveliest spot in the room. Amy was in her element now, and out of gratitude, if nothing more, was as sprightly and gracious as possible, coming to the conclusion about that time that virtue was its own reward after all. I guess Hayes is Lawrence's gardener.
yes. Also, in this chapter, we get to see a little bit of Joe and Laurie's relationship, and how unsuited they are with each other. That I reading, I was like, just another more scene where how can you think that Joe is remotely interested in Laurie in a romantic way? Because she literally closes the gate in his face.
Go away, Teddy, I'm busy.
This is not the first time that he has done that he has said something in a tone that meant something more than just friendship. This is not the first time that he has tried to get close to her, and every time she rejects him, kind of like she almost expects, or she knows how to react to that kind of behavior. It's not like it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel comfortable to have a boy who's always like nagging you and trying to be closer to you than you would like.
Well, I think this is one of those things that we are just now becoming more aware and more people talk about it, how unrequited attention is something it's not talked enough. Not really like a stalkerish behavior, but in the way you are not being listened, that's not talked enough.
Yeah, I think Joe is trying to set boundaries, and Laurie is actively ignoring them. Joe is too nice, and she likes him as a friend. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if he weren't her friend, if she would have put up with it.
I think in the chapter when the twins are born, there was something similar. can remember it now. She basically shuts him down when he's thinks that he's being all romantic.
Yeah, and it's just this idea of, she's constantly trying to find a physical barrier between them. And, in later chapters when he's finally over that, he's married to Amy, she's like relieved that they don't have to do that anymore, that she doesn't have to put a cushion between them. It must be very tiring. Like I said, it must be very tiring to have someone who just won't respect your space, who just don't take, he just doesn't get the hint that this is not gonna be turn romantic. It's not gonna turn like what you want to be. And also it just showed how Laurie is not really in love with her. He's just fixated on her, probably because she keeps putting limits. It's a bit embarrassing to see him in this chapter, how he is trying so hard, telling her like, oh, it's fine, you don't need to ask permission, and what's mine is yours, and she's like, no, I don't want that.
Maybe it's some kind of fixation with childhood, almost.
I think it happens with boys because they are not taught that they can be friends with girls. And especially I think in that context where even when you were older, men and women didn't have much chance to have a relationship like that was so close, because it was, a physical proximity and all that was very, you have to be very careful to not give the wrong impression. So it confused them, and boys, they are not taught that they can just be friends with women. They are immediately, when they have a friend, they are like, oh, it's your girlfriend. It's like, no, it's just my friend. So yeah, I think that plays into why Laurie and other characters have this infatuation or this fixation. I think in later books, in Joe's voice, Louisa Alcott tries to replicate the story with Tom and Nan, and tries to say, okay, we try one more time to understand that these relationships are not okay, that there's something settling about a boy who is so fixated on a girl who keeps saying no.
She repeats the whole storyline again, because people didn't get it on the first time. I don't know if they got it on Joe's voice either.
I don't know, and I can't even blame, like, oh, it was a time, because today we still have that, and we still, and even not in Little Women, but in other books, I read historical romances, and there are a lot of really toxic relationships that people love, and you're like, why? It's so horrible. He's not respecting boundaries. He's not respecting a person's wishes. Why do you think this is romantic? But it's still being written like that, and yeah, it's concerning. So you should try it one more time. In Joe's voice, and even had Laurie. She didn't write the actual exchange, but Laurie is supposed to talk to Tom to tell him that I suppose he shared his experience and tell him that he needed to let Nan alone and focus on someone who actually loved him, actually closing the door on your face.
I always liked Dora. It's been a while since I read it.
Another thing about this part is, how Amy, like how much Laurie's friends like Amy, and they are willing to go to this art fair, and Laurie is able to tell them where to go, and they will follow, and they will go to Amy, and yeah, they were reading this moment where she's like, Amy is in her element now because everyone is there. I was like, she's such an extrovert. Like, I would be so anxious to have so much people, but she's such an extrovert that she flourishes when people are around. And I'm like, oh god, that is one of the things that I really wish I could have, that social ability to talk to people.
Have you ever been at art fair or something similar?
I mean, yeah, I have been in situations where I have to sell a thing, and it's overwhelming when a lot of people come to you, and you have to, because it's client service, or it's like, yeah, so you have to be all nice and make small talk. I can't make small talk, so I don't know how Amy can be so at ease and so happy to have so many people around her. Anxious. I did very anxious, like go away.
I can't do small talk either. But once when I was at the fair and I was selling, it was for the shop where I was working, but it didn't really matter the lack of small talk. And when people were just buying things and I just said thank you that they paid, or I gave them the price.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but yeah, it's harder way. You have to be amiable and you have to like make the client feel like glad to be there and like I don't know what to say. It's incredible that Amy can do that.
But I hate small talk. But I'm more of a social introvert, so I couldn't work like that anyway. Sometimes people are very conflicted if Joe is more of an extrovert or an introvert. I think she's somewhere in between. She's an ambivert. That's just my opinion on Joe. She likes to stay at home and read when people go to party. When she's in New York, she hangs out with Fritz. She doesn't go to out to the city.
Yeah, it's just the Joe. I don't know if she's an extrovert or an introvert. I don't know. I think she just needed to find her people.
Yes, that's true.
I just think she needed to find Amy's fine in these very traditional situations, and that's fine, and that's great for her. Joe is just not that person, and I don't think it means necessarily that she's an introvert, but that she just needs to find other kinds of parties and other kinds of events to meet herself.
It's just interesting. I hear sometimes people or seen people wondering about that.
Later on, she does know how to behave, and that's why sometimes I'm like, when she was behaving badly in the last chapter, was she doing it because she was spiteful that Amy asked her to come, or was she really being awkward because she's awkward? Like I don't know. I have my doubts there. She definitely knows how to behave.
Oh
If she wants to, she can behave. Jill behaved herself with exemplary propriety, and when Amy was happily surrounded by her guard of honor, Jill circulated about the hall, picking up every bit of gossip which enlightened her upon the subject of Chester change of bait. She reproached herself for her share of the ill feeling and resolved to exonerate Amy as soon as possible. She also discovered that what Amy had done about the things in the morning and considered her a model of magnanimity. As she patted the art table, she glanced over it for her sister's tea, but saw no sign of them. Tucked away out of sight, I dare say, thought Joe, who could forgive her own wrong, but hotly resented any insult of her family. Good evening, Miss Joe. How does Amy get on? Asked May with a conciliatory air, for she wanted to show that she also could be generous. She has sold everything she had that was worth selling, and now she's enjoying herself. The flower table is always attractive, especially the gentleman. Joe couldn't resist giving that little slap, but May took it so meekly. She regretted it a minute after, and she fell praising the great vases which still remained unsold. Is Amy's elimination anywhere about? I took a fancy to buy that for father, said Joe, very anxious to learn the fate of her sister's work. Everything of Amy's sold long ago. I took care that the right people saw them, and they made a nice little sum of money for us, returned May, who had overcome sundry small temptations as well as Amy had that day. Much gratified, Joe rushed back to tell the good news, and Amy looked both touched and surprised by the report of May's word man. Now, gentlemen, I want you to go and do your duty by the other tables as generously as you have by mine, especially the art table, said, ordering out Teddy's own and the girls' called, the college friends. Charge, Chester, charge, is the motto for the table, but do your duty like men, and you'll get your money's worth of art in every sense of the word, said the irrepressible Joe, as the devoted phalanx prepared to take the field. To hear is to obey, but March is third far than May, said little Parker, making a frantic effort to be both witty and tender, and getting firmly quenched by Laurie, who said, "Very well, my son, for a small boy," and woke him up with a parental pat on the head. By the bases, whispered Amy to Laurie, as a final heaping of coal of fire on her enemy's head. May's great delight, Mr. Lawrence not only bought the bases, but evaded they could fall with one under each arm. The other gentlemen speculated with equal rashness in all sorts of frail trifles, and wandered helplessly about afterward, burdened with wax flowers, painted pans, filigree, portfolios, and other useful and appropriate purchases.
There, and then the money goes to charity, and yet it's like a competition going on all the time. Competition of egos and minds.
Yes, exactly. And it's interesting how, one of the things that got Amy into trouble was how popular she is with the boys. And that's actually what saved her. That Laurie's friends are so enamored of her that they are willing to spend their afternoon in an art fair talking to her, buying flowers that they don't need, buying things that they don't need just because she asked him to, asked them to. And these are rich boys. She's not forcing anyone to spend their money. These boys have plenty to spend. Yeah, I mean, I would say she's using her powers for good. She's trying to help, and even this is just another level of her influence on May. Make her May because of that. She tried to help Amy by selling her stuff, and then when Amy sees that that May did a kindness to her, she tries to give back to it. So it's kind of this chain that keeps making people do with things, especially between these girls. But I think it's nice that Alcott is telling well, the influence you can have for being kind once you can replicate that. I don't know if May continue to be that is nice afterwards. Hopefully she did. But yeah, at least in this moment she got a lesson. It's nice. And again we see Joe who is like all suspicious and all like, what did you do with my sister's things? And she's like, no. She May's like, I sold them, and actually this is why I'd be so angry with Amy because Joe realized that it's something she did. And so it's like, oh, she's like, oh, it's my fault. She's like, oh no. She rectifies. She tells. I think it says she tells everyone that it was her fault, and yeah, it's a really nice moment. And the boy Parker, who is I think is the one who like Eggy the most, making taking his shot with little poetry. Yeah, poor boy. I don't know what happened to him. I would have loved to know what happened to him.
Yeah, I think he just disappears after this.
I know he appears here, and I think in the first chapters in this second part in Good Wives, and they say he was really interested in Amy, but yeah, I'm sorry, Laurie ended up marrying her. It's really sweet, and it's really nice. There's another moment later on, but we also get to see a little bit of Amy and Laurie's friendship, and how she also tells him like buy the bases, and he does it. Like he tries to help her too with bringing the boys, with buying stuff, with going to May's table. He cares about her. It's not just he not only cares about Joe, he cares about all the girls, and he definitely considers Amy a friend. So yeah, it's really nice.
True.
It's a small moment, but it's there. I like it.
But there are quite a few in Laurie moments before Europe, but they just don't get adapted. They are in the book.
Yeah, I think it's funny how people say like, "Wait, Joe and Laurie together," because it's so nice to see a story about friends turning to lovers and falling in love, and it's like, well, you kind of have that. You have that in this story. It's just that adaptations never show how great friends Amy and Laurie were. They just show them. They usually just consider Amy as the little sister.
Yeah.
And then in Europe, it's like, oh, I'm in love with you, and it's like that's not how it happens. I mean, there's a lot of moments before Europe that you can see that they care about each other and they have fun with each other, just the two of them. They dance a lot together. It's a beautiful friendship that usually goes on.
I've been thinking about making an episode about Alf Whitman at some point. And I think Alf Whitman actually was closer with May than he was with Louisa, based on what I have read.
I honestly haven't read much about him a long time, but yeah, I remember that he was a great friend of both of them.
Yeah.
It was an interesting relationship.
Yeah, because he and May only had 2-year age gap. So he was 15, she was 17, and then they would go riding together. I don't think it was a romantic relationship, but they were friends.
Yeah, they were definitely friends.
But you are right. It's a from friends to lovers trope with Amy and Laurie as well. People just don't pay enough attention to that.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I think I think you pay more attention, you would realize that they are very well suited. Is before they try anything romantic, and it's like if you contrast both relationships, like who are you gonna pick? Who would you match Laurie with, the girl who puts actual physical barriers between them, who keeps telling him like, don't say that, don't act like that, don't tell me this thing, or the girl who he goes dancing with, who appreciates, okay, like the part of society he belongs to. So yeah, I think it's very obvious, especially in Good Wives. It's before Europe that Amy is much better suited for Laurie. I don't know. I think people just get into the romanticism. They're into this romantic notion that Joe and Laurie should be together. I don't know why. It's better the way that Alcott probably pick up.
Aunt Carol was there, heard the story, looked pleased, and said something to Miss March in a corner, which made the latter lady beam with satisfaction, and watch Amy with a face full of mingled pride and anxiety, though she did not betray the cause of her pleasure till several days later. The fair was pronounced as success, and when May bid Amy good night, she did not gush as usual, but gave her an affectionate kiss, and a look which said, "Forgive and forget," that satisfied Amy, and when she got home she found the vases paraded on the parlor chimney piece, with a great bouquet in each. The word of merit for magnanimous March, as Laurie announced with flourish. You have a deal more principle, generosity, and nobleness of character than I ever gave you credit for, Amy. You behaved sweetly, and I respect you with all my heart, said Joe warmly, as they brushed their hair together late that night. Yes, we all do, and love her for being so ready to forgive. It must have been dreadfully hard after working so long and setting your heart on selling your own pretty things. I don't believe I could have done it as kindly as you did, added Beth from her pillow. Why, girls, you don't need to praise me so. I only did as I'd be done by. You laugh at me when I say I want to be a lady, but I mean a true gentlewoman in mind and manners, and I try to do as far as I know how. I cannot explain exactly, but I want to be above the little meanness and follies and faults that spoil so many women. I am far from it now, but I do my best, and I hope in time to be what mother is. Amy spoke earnestly, and Joe said with a cordial hug, I understand now what you mean, and I'll never laugh at you again. You are getting on faster than you think. I'll take lessons of you in true politeness. For you I have learned the secret, I believe. Try away, dearie, and you'll get your reward some day, and no one will be more delighted than I shall. A week later Amy did get her reward, and poor Joe found it hard to be delighted. A letter came from Aunt Carol, and Miss March's face was illuminated to such a degree when she read it that Joe and Beth, who were with her, demanded what the glad tidings were. Aunt Carol is going abroad next month and wants me to go with her, burst Joe in, flying out of her chair in an uncontrollable rapture. No, dear, not you. It's Amy. Should we stop there?
Yeah, sure. I think it's beautiful how the family talks about Amy, how much, Miss March, she's so proud of her. When Carol tells her that she's taking her to Europe, she's very proud. I don't know if the anxiety comes from telling Joe that she isn't going or in letting Amy go for so long. I maybe both. She's happy for Amy, but I think she saw coming Joe's disappointment. Which, in all fairness, I mean, Amy didn't do anything to. Amy did was, Amy. What Amy did was she was being kind and she was being well behaved, and at no point was she trying to take something from Joe. She wasn't trying to put Joe in a bad light. She deserves the treat. Yeah, that's a very contentious point in the fandom, I think. Yeah, when you read why she got it, and she deserved it, and we can talk about this in when we read the next part. I like how everyone at this point, everyone is very proud of her, and it's rewarding her. I think it's lovely that Laurie took the vases that he bought and put flowers and said, this is the reward of merit for a magnanimous march. I think that's a lovely thing to do, and it shows how much everyone admires her for doing that, even if it's just it's just a fair. But it's like, I mean, it shows how good a person she is. Like the all of them, even Beth, who everyone sanctifies her and says, "Oh, she's the best one. She's the kindest one." Even she's like, I wouldn't have done that.
I like what she says, that she wants to be above all the pettiness and meanness that ruins a lot of women. Oh, I wish I could be that myself. That's what I think when I read that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things where, I mean, I keep going back to adaptations, and I'm like, why don't you ever put this speech or this little fragment on the movie? Because this is what Amy is trying to achieve. She doesn't just want to be a rich lady because she wants to have pretty dresses or because she wants to have jewels, which is actually, I mean, it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that, but she's trying to be even more than that. She's trying to be, like she said, as a gentlewoman. She's trying to be preserve her values, and she's trying to be what Marmee is. So yeah, I think this should be there. This should be one of the main any moment in any in any adaptation, because it's who she's trying to be, and when you see that, it goes against the usual simplistic and superficial judgment of she just wants to be rich, and that's it, and that's obviously not true.
I think it's one of the letters that she sends from Europe. She writes that Meg didn't marry well. Joe is not going to do that. Beth's a neither, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to provide money for my family. So it's like she sees marriage as something that she has to do so that she can provide for her family. It's not that she wants to get rich herself. It's that she can provide for, her parents, her sisters, their children. It's something that a lot of women went through in the 19th century, because if you were a woman, there were a limited amount of work that you could do. So you would either work or you would get married.
It's one of those things that I think some of the patients, the 2019 film, we love here, right? Joe says so easily, you can you can be an actress, and it's so easy, apparently. And they forget that actresses at that time had a horrible life, actually. They had a very difficult life. And more than often, they had to sell themselves to patrons because they wouldn't make as much money as they needed. So I think it's actually quite careless of Joe to say, you can be in the theater. No, she actually would be forced into sexual labor, because that's what actresses had to do at the time.
John, 94 film, I think he talks about weird life of the actors. You're correct.
That's something I hadn't thought about. So recently I try to research something about dancers and things like and people in the theater, and it's like these women lived a very hard life. So I don't think Meg deserved any of that. So yeah, I don't want her to be an actress in the theater. That was the reality. Yeah, I'm glad she didn't have to suffer through that, traumatic as it may seem, to tell your sister, let's go away and we'll live together and I'll work in a fabric and you'll be an actress. That's just not she's love.
Jo has quite a few of those moments. I think there's that moment when she tells Laurie, "Oh, just take one of your grandfather's boats and travel to East Indies and become a merchant. Just leave school and go and have an adventure." But she's like 15. She doesn't really know the realities of those things.
Yeah, of course. Yes. As much as you can say, oh, she's a free spirit, that it's fun, and how amazing that she just had this idea of just leading, like the realities, and their realities, because they are not wealthy women, they wouldn't have anything to fall upon if the things go wrong. Yeah, being impulsive is the word that you could have done. And then telling Laurie also, which she is wealthy, but he wouldn't lasted a minute on his own in the yeah, it was quite breakaway. It's actually contrasted with very well with how AB sees the world, that she is. So she's very realistic and very down to earth, of saying like, this is my reality, these are my possibilities, and this is what I can do. It may not be the admirable thing that's I sometimes, like you said, like my older sisters didn't do well with their marriages, or they just don't want to get married. So I have it wouldn't be the popular thing in my family, but it's what needs to be done.
Makes me feel a little sad for Amy. You see that that's an only option that you have. It was the reality in the 19th century.
And you would think, oh, she's the fourth daughter. Like she has three sisters to make the right match. They didn't. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so now I'm gonna have to do it. What are the odds that your three sisters decide to either marry? You know, I mean, I'm not saying that Meg is wrong. Of course not. But she did marry someone who didn't have much in terms of wealth, or didn't have anything. And what, Beth is 6. Jo just wouldn't do it yet. It must be a harsh reality for her to look around and say, like, it's either I marry well, or we continue living in this situation.
There is that what Mommy says in Vanity Fair, that I rather see you as happy as poor man's wife, unhappy queens on thrones.
Yeah, it's a struggle, I think, for Amy. To do the thing, and Laurie helps her a lot in that. True. Thing that Marmy taught her, but at the same time, being very aware of the realities of life. It's struggle. I don't envy her. I don't envy the decisions that she had to do, and at so young age, it was a lot of pressure on her.
And it still happens today. Not so much about, the marriage, but if we are being said that, oh, everyone is in charge of their own fate and happiness, whatever. It all depends on where we are born, how much money our family has. Are we born into a country where there is a class system? Those things have never really disappeared. They just have different forms now.
Yeah, definitely. I think, even like maybe not in marriage, but in like which career you're gonna get into. How many people wishes that they could still go to, I don't know, a humanities career, or being artists or being writers. But it's like, what are the possibilities of you succeeding in this market? Maybe you just have to go to an engineering career, to a business career that doesn't fulfill you, but you're like, okay, fine, I'll do this because I need to get work.
That was the chat between Jimena and me. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time. Take care, make good choices. Bye.